What's up, beautiful jellyfish? It's Tracy. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch my video. Today I'm going to be doing a video for you guys talking all about basically when to cast instance and all stuff like that, because I made a huge misplay at an IQ that I went to, and I am still kicking myself up for it a little bit because I totally could have killed someone's creature, but because I waited until their turn, I totally misplayed. So just to get a common misconception out of the way, a lot of people think, oh, well, if you have an instant, you need to cast it on your opponent's turn. Whoa, let me tell you how wrong you are. Okay, so yeah, that's not a thing. The thing that's really cool about instance is that you have the flexibility of being able to cast it at any point, and it can be at any stage of the turn, or it can also be during your turn. A lot of people say, if they see the word instant, they think, you always cast it on your opponent's turn. No. If you think that, you're wrong. I'm sorry if I crushed all your hopes and dreams. Okay, so I have found, after playing Control for a little bit, that just because something says instant, it doesn't mean that you always cast it on your opponent's turn. There's going to be a lot of instances where you cast instance during your turn, and I'm going to tell you why. So basically, let's talk about this scenario. I'm going to make this up right now. This will be great. Okay, cool. Say you're playing against Infect. I forgot the deck name for a sec. Okay, cool. You're playing against Infect, right? You have the perfect opportune moment to kill their creature. Their creature, it's like a Blighted Ancient, whatever. It's just a 1/1 J-chillin', right? So, instead of being you know what, man, I'm gonna bolt this now, I'm gonna wait until their turn. You'll wait until their turn, and then your opponent's all cool, mutagenic growth, and you're all cool, in response, lightning bolt. And then their opponent's Apostle's Blessing, or whatever it is that they do. Now, had you done that on your turn, you could have killed their creature, but because you waited, you can't kill their creature now because they're Apostle's Blessing per red, and you cry a lot because you're wow, I totally could have killed it, and then you feel awful because you realize that you could have perfectly had their creature killed because they were tapped out. This is a huge, huge, huge reason to do things during your turn, is if your opponent is tapped out or mostly tapped out. And then something I feel this is a really huge indication of is knowing the format more than anything, because there's going to be some instances where you know your opponent's deck and you're oh man, I don't need to fear anything. But something I found a lot too is I'll play against the Elf matchup or the Kiki Chord matchup, and you're all oh man, they don't have instant speed pump spells, but then they're you're oh, you think about it and you're no, but they run Chord of Calling, and so they can use their creatures to to get Resto Angel or Kiki Jiki or whatever. So basically, it's a lot about knowing again what your opponent has or whatever, being okay, cool, what instance do they run in the deck? What potential stuff could they do? Could they counter my stuff or whatever? Especially if you're playing a control mirror, this is really important, because if your opponent is tapped out on the control mirror, oh my goodness, slam down all the things you can because you're cool, you're tapped out, I'm gonna throw down whatever. So yeah, I think a lot of it is just about knowing the format and figuring out when to cast stuff or whatever. Now, of course, there's gonna be times where you're really gonna want to cast instance during your opponent's turn or whatever, because they're all gonna be say they got one card in their hand or whatever, and you're all okay, cool, the chance of that being a Apostle's Blessing, or whatever the card is this percentage, whatever. So then you're all okay, cool, well, you have your thing, so I'm gonna Snapcaster Mage that I can block. Just all those little things. So I think a lot of it is just about knowing when to cast instance is a really, really opportune time. Say you got nothing going on the board right now, and you're all you're playing against Tron, for example. They've got 2 cards in their hands, and then you're all yeah, I'm doing pretty okay. And then, Tron doesn't act a lot on instant speed, so say, you're okay, cool, end of your turn, I'm gonna Snapcaster Bolt you. And then you have a 2/1 that you can swing with. So, something like that is not super bad. I think a lot of it does depend on what deck you're playing against, basically. Another huge thing, this especially goes for casting Snapcaster Mage, is Snapcaster Mage does have, Flash, so, obviously, hope you know that, but it has Flash, it's a really good magic card. So, say, your opponent plays say you're playing against Tron or whatever, and they're Oblivion Stone, which that card's really awful against control matchups basically anyway, because you don't run a lot of permanents. So they're all O-Stone, and then you're all okay, cool, you blow up my Tassiger, or something like that, and then you okay, cool, well, I'm gonna then Snapcaster Bolt once, the O-Stone is off the table, or something like that. So, yeah, I think it's just a really common misconception that I think just like, needs to just not be a thing, because a lot of it is just about timing, and a lot of times you'll find yourselves, like, needing to cast instants during your own turn. And also, too, it's about leaving, you know, knowing when to, like, leave mana open for, like, a dispel or, like, something like that. My misplay that I made was I was playing against my friend, actually, who's playing Kiki Chord, and he was all, like, had 4 mana on board. I could have killed one of his creatures. His token that he left behind with Voice of Resurgence. So he untapped, he swung, and I was like, okay, bolt your elemental token. He was all like, Resto Angel, like, whatever. So it just, I could have easily killed it during my turn, but I chose to be dumb, and I chose to be like, I'll cast it during your turn. I don't know what it is. I don't know what if it's, like, the whole thing about, like, being a blue player and being like, I play things on, you know, my opponent's turn, like, you know. I think, like, some people have that mentality, and that just, you know, is just really not going to be the case a lot if you're playing, like, a, you know, control deck. I mean, control decks in Modern right now are just really not a thing, because it's just all, everyone's all, like, Eldrazi or whatever, so, you know, the format's weird right now. Things are just insane. So, I thought I had more things to say, but I guess I don't. So, instead of rambling, I'm gonna leave you guys off here. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got. Talk to you guys later. Enjoy the rest of your tonight, and see you in the next video.